what's up, VS Weekly fam? We are back for our final session for the eDisky season of Talking VS. So far, we've had some heated chats here with the gents.
And we're not stopping, Machitane. I want us to jump into this one immediately. Tell me, do these players become complacent after winning these titles?
Maybe for one day, you know?
Yeah.
The night after you win, you're definitely complacent. You're not thinking about EAFC, but in the long run, there are some who become complacent, right? But those are the people that you don't necessarily hear from again, right? The ones that you win one big trophy, you celebrate, then you disappear into the wind, right? You just become a nobody. But the ones you keep hearing about, year in, year out, there's a reason, right? And even if they're trying to be complacent, even if they want to be, right, there's something inside them, Thendo. That little spark of competition that doesn't allow that to happen.
Yeah, man. Especially this eDisky title. I think it's such a coveted title, you know, in the local scene right now. It is, you know, one of the biggest tournaments when it comes to LAN events. I think every single player marks it on their calendar to say, no, I need to be at that one. Whether it's in Cape Town, whether it's going to be in Johannesburg for Comic-Con, they're always marking their calendars for this one. And I just think complacency is tough because I don't know if it's also just the strength of the league and the caliber of the players and just how well they perform. That's also just making it really difficult to, you know, for people to win this title more than one time, you know.
Do you think that's what separates a GOAT? A person who wins it once and a person who keeps wanting to win it more than one time?
It would if we had anybody that's been able to win it more than one time, right? But it certainly is the case that like the GOATs are the ones that are always there, top 3, top 4, regardless of the event, right? And it's very interesting to me that eDisky, the VS Gaming eDisky tournament, is the only EAFC tournament in the country that nobody's won twice. Everything else, we have multiple winners, right? We have some tournaments where some people have won 3 or 4 times in a row, but not this one, right? This one, there's just something that happens around that particular time of the competition. Everybody heats up, the level of competition raises. And part of the problem is that if you win, right, guess who everybody else is studying? Everybody else now has a new platform, a new person at the top of the leaderboard. You have this massive target on your back. So you try your best, right? But when the whole world is chasing you, someone eventually is going to catch up.
Yeah, and you know, another thing that's really difficult, right, is because EAFC is always evolving, right? You know, the EAFC we're playing today is not the same one that we're playing, you know, in season 1 of eDisky, right? The game's always changing and players have to, you know, be always practicing to try and implement those changes and understanding how different mechanics work, right? I mean, Snare, right? There are so many moments in so many like Disky games, right, where if it was a different EAFC, right, something different would have happened in that one, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the fact that characters change, right? The player's characteristics changing makes a massive difference. So let's say you have a player that had 99 shooting in one game, next game he's at 95, right? Might not seem that much superficially, but in the game at the very highest level, right, those small differences, they make a massive impact. And it's another thing as well, I like that what you mentioned about the game changing, right? The game changes, but the meta of the game also changes, right? Maybe this year the meta for the game is 5 at the back, it favors me, right? I play really well this time around. Next time around it's like, well, 4 at the back is a lot better, and then it becomes very difficult for you to play now.
So then on that note, with all these changes in place, do you guys really feel like we might never see a back-to-back champion?
You see, I have to be careful here, right? Homies know where I'm at, so can't talk too much trash. I think it's inevitable, right? But it could take a while, right? For example,
could take a while.
I play Dota, right? In Dota, at their version of their eDisky VS Gaming World Finals, it took 10 years before someone was able to make it happen twice, right? 10 years. We're not there just yet. So we still have a little bit of time before we see exactly who the actual GOAT of the scene is going to be.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think give it a little bit of time. Like you said, the big issue as well is once there's VODs about you, you know, once people can analyze your gameplay, go back, understand that, oh, this player does X, Y, Z, and especially in this eDisky, right, that we're in now, this EAFC 24, it's really cross-heavy, I think, right? And you get a lot of people using Haaland, for example, sending those balls over the top, and instead of, you know, going for goal with Haaland, they would like to just, you know, pass it over for an assist on the ground. So it gets a little bit sticky, right? If you come from, let's say, EAFC 23, and now you come into 24, and meta in EAFC 23, right, was through balls, and now the meta has changed into these lob passes.
So I want to ask that then, is the key to success making sure that you are on every single version as soon as it comes out?
Kind of. The main thing is that like a lot of the player cards that come out, right, the earlier you get them, the better, right? You get to discover who are actually the top performers in the team, the top performers in the entire game. And this actually is an avenue where complacency might set in. Let's say we're playing FC23. I get very good at this. I become used to it. I win a title, right? I have a certain team composition and I'm like, this is my team. Once I go over to the new game, right, instinctively I want to play that same team. I just won a tournament with this, right? Why would I want to make that change? But it can take, it doesn't just take time, it takes losing for you to realize that, okay, maybe these ideas aren't necessarily panning out, but you become complacent, right? You think to yourself, well, it was working for the whole year. Why wouldn't it continue working into the next one? But then you start losing, you hit that roadblock and you're like, okay, adaptations need to be made.
So I'm still a little bit of a noob on this, but I think you guys are going to have to explain to me how that would mean there is an advantage for a player.
I think the best way, like earlier when I was talking about the formations, right? Young Savage, a man who he won the first VS Gaming e-Disky tournament, right? First one ever, $1 million prize pool. And for years, I saw this guy, no matter what the meta was, right? 4 at the back is how he played defensively, right? No matter what. And then last year, he had one of his worst runs just in general. All of the tournaments, he was bombing out quite early, wasn't necessarily looking so hot. Until there was a tournament that he played just before VS Gaming World, right? And I see it and I'm like, Tabo, what's this? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, you were 5 defenders at the back. And he's like, hey man, I was losing too much, you know? There was not enough width being provided by my wingers on the pitch, you know? I was being overloaded too often at the back. So if you have that new idea and understanding that the old ideas aren't working anymore, that's how you make the adaptations. And he likes to play with the ball, but he was losing it all the time, right? He switches to 5 at the back, he can keep the ball more often, gives him more options in terms of progressing the ball up the pitch, gives him more attacking angles, something that would not have been available had he stayed complacent and just stuck with his old build of the team.
I want to ask, you said, what, 1 million?
One
Prize
bar,
pool.
yeah.
And does he still have the money?
We need to call him and find out.
You see, the flop is this boy also joined Goliath Gaming, right? They've been paying for everything, so he's probably still got a huge chunk of that cash just sitting at home.
It's probably good, man. You know, I think just while we're on it, just mentioning some of the players that, you know, have come and gone in terms of the sense of like not being able to defend these titles, right? Someone I want to bring up right now is Asim. Asim was really crazy. He just bursted onto the scene. No one really backed him to win season 5, but he just did. You know, everyone was really shocked, and he just came in with a new and fresh play style. And I think if you're looking at it right now, or you know, what was it, 2 weeks ago, we did our top 5 list, you know, and he was there, he was me and Snare's number 3, right? And I think he's number 3 for one reason for me, right? Because it's not that he's not consistent, right? He's always consistent, he's always playing, he's always in tournaments, right? But I think he just becomes very readable, right? And that's what's happened. After that first tournament win, everyone just jumped onto those VODs and they were just like, you know what, Asim's playstyle is quite interesting. We need to analyze this and start playing a little bit more like him.
Yep, I mean, we got to see it when he was winning that tournament, right? His direct balls in particular was a massive concern. And that actually led to people changing how they defend, right? Because before at the time, the meta was utilizing a high pressing defense, right? Immediately as somebody has the ball, you double or triple man mark him sometimes, regain the ball as quickly as possible. But what he would do, he'd exploit that, right? Find that little corner of space in between your players, get a ball through, all of a sudden you're now behind 3 or 4 players, right? Everyone looks at the VODs, they're like, oh, we see positional defense is the way to go right now, right? Try to track where the ball is going instead, be aggressive in that area, and then all of a sudden now Asim feels a lot more vulnerable than he was before, and they had this massive knock-on effect on the entire scene.
So you mentioned now meta and all of that. I feel like there has to be a few things that needs to change. And I've heard whispers of people saying we need to ban Haaland. Is that a thing?
Yes.
Is that happening?
Yes. Delete the code from the game, it's too much.
You know what, just to interrupt you there, another player, right, who hit this rise, and I wouldn't really call it a fall, right? He's still really at the top of his game. Currently inside, you know, the games, he's still battling it out. He's in the lower bracket, it's Zaid, right? Zaid really utilizes Haaland a lot, and he plays that play style where he sends the ball onto the wings, right? He's got his runners over there, and then he'll just cross it back in, header either into like a Mia Hamm or, you know, that's playing there in pockets of space. And I think, you know, something about Zaid when he was in season 6, it was quite interesting, right? Because when we got to that final, it was like, here's Asim, here's Zaid, it's time. Asim defend your title. Let's see what you got. And not to say it was a bad game, right? But just because, you know, like you mentioned it, Asim's playstyle just became a little bit more readable. Zaid was just able to exploit that.
Absolutely, and you could see it happening throughout the progression of that tournament, right? And this is actually another place where complacency might come in. Sometimes complacency doesn't occur over the course of your career or after you've won a big tournament.
Yeah.
It occurs during the tournament. You're doing really well. Things are looking solid. First couple of games, you're rocking in 5-6 goals. You start chilling. You're very confident in your ideas. You go further in the tournament. You find yourself in the finals without having dropped the game. If I'm Asim, I'm like, why should I have to change my strategy?
Yeah,
Why should I have to do anything different? But you're forced to because your opponent's been looking at you, making the studies and making the adjustments. I think that's the critical thing. Complacency isn't necessarily, do I think I'm that good? It's, do I feel I have to make adjustments? And if I don't feel I have to make adjustments, in some sense, whether I like it or not, I am becoming a little bit complacent. But then when I start losing, I make those changes and I get better.
Yeah, I really think that making changes is critical as a e-disky player, which I think Zaid really does really well on, right? And right now, look, I mean, we're going to be rooting for him through his bracket run. But there's a big man who's in that upper bracket right now. I don't know, you guys, I'm sure you know.
Well, I mean, I would like to know a little bit more about Kalen because he's
Yes,
also a
exactly.
massive name in this, you know, roster, and there's a lot
There's
of
a lot
buzz
of
around
rivalry actually there with Kalen and Zaid.
It's insane, actually.
I mean, there was an interview once, we were speaking about this yesterday, but the interview that Kalen once gave where just before the tournament, where he's like, look, he understands he's here to win, right? But he's specifically here to beat Zaid. He's like, that's what this tournament is all about.
And that's what we need, man. Right?
Yeah. Can I beat this guy, right? Because at some point you have to, we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, goats travel in herds, right? When you recognize somebody else as being at the top of their game and you're like, yo, I have to deal with this guy, right? If I can't deal with him, even if I win, it doesn't feel like I earned it fully. But if I take him down, then it certainly does. And Kalen has been trying for this crown for a long time. It's literally the only tournament in South Africa he has not won yet.
Yeah, no, it's quite crazy, right? When you think about it, that like, that's how serious this e-disky really is. I think even for me, just, you know, as I was entering the gaming scene, when I was like, all right, what's moving and shaking over here? Telkom e-disky. It was that game. It was that tournament that everyone was like, no, you gotta be playing in this one, right? And when I watched my first one, I was like, oh no, for sure every player wants to be campaigning for that. And that's exactly what Kalen is trying to do right now. He's trying to make that campaign. So far, he's looking good at the top of the bracket. You know, he's not really making too many mistakes, but we'll see exactly what happens.
So you say because somebody wins the title every year, the title winner is always new. So what about a person like, I don't know, me? You know, like, how do you get to that point where you're competing at that level?
Grind.
Yeah.
Ceaseless grind. Wow. You should see some of the hours that some of these players are putting in, right? 10 hours a day, 11 hours a day, 9 hours a day. It's a job at that point in time, right? To get that good. You don't get that good by accident.
Wait, even with load shedding, be honest.
You see people have some giant generators, you know.
This is a funny thing. Today I got a Eskom's push notification to say we haven't had load shedding for 200 days.
So you should be grinding right now.
Right now is the time. Right now is the time. For real, no. But I mean, honestly, it is difficult to enter the scene, I think, as a new player. But we've seen some success stories here and there. I think a success story from the season that's currently happening right now is like Rida and Beans, Emo. They're struggling a little bit, right? But you would have expected to see somebody like Beast Bianchi, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, like, what happened to Beast Bianchi?
It's been tough times, man.
These are big names you guys are throwing around there. Who are the underdogs? Like, who are the people that you would be like, nah, absolutely no odds of winning this, and if they do, it would be a major upset?
You know my favorite I have two favorite underdogs in the scene, right? But for variously different reasons. One is a man called Bobo Beast. Myself and Thendo were there for his debut, like playing an actual tournament. And I remember we were sitting next to each other being like, he's not the final product yet. There's a lot of rough edges, but there's something here. There's something actually special cooking underneath. Took him about a year or two, but now he's playing for Pirates. He's out here, right, becoming a more recognizable name. And it took him that long to grind, you know, play out multiple games, put himself in as many tournaments as possible, lose all of them, right? But losing is an essential part of the process. And then on the other side, another underdog who unfortunately didn't make it that far in this tournament, but Atibira, another person we were there for his debut, also on the come up. And Atibira, he plays from Kasi, né? I think he's from Soweto. So no big infrastructure around him, you know, doesn't have like a massive alliance of people that can come help him train, ensure that he gets better. He just decided, I want to do this with bad internet, you know. There was one time where there was a match happening, he had to travel to another homie's house and play from there because the internet at his house was too bad.
Okay,
that's the kind of dedication you need.
Hold up. You guys are talking a lot about he, him. I'm hearing boys' names. Where are the girls at? Why is this a question I have to keep asking? Where are the girls? Let's get into it.
No, we do have quite a few female figures, I think, in the e-disky scene, right? Competing wise, not so much, right? They're more on the influencer side here and there. There's the Goliath girl as well. It's eluding me, her name.
The Gigi girl. Oh God, it's eluding me too. Don't be mad, Tim.
And she's watching this right now.
That's the
She's watching it. She's like, wow, you guys forgot my name.
Man, the person that comes to my head at least, right, who I was casting with, you know, while we were still busy there at Cape Town is Sam or some other girl, right? A really big figure as well, does a lot of casting, does a lot of content around e-disky and the game in general, right? But for the most part, yeah, no, we definitely do need a lot more women representation, right?
That's what I want to hear. Girls, we need you guys, and also I want you guys to start brushing up on these girls' names and start putting them in your tier list so that they can get motivated and get up there, because we need some competitors.
But before we invite gents, any predictions? We'll see who's winning the next one. Is it still the same gents that are still at the top 3 again, or is it a new cycle next year?
I think Zayd's gonna defend his title. I think this year, you know, even though he dropped down to the lower bracket, he had to go through a tough game. He had to beat his brother. I mean, you don't just beat your brother and then not win. Like, what is that? What kind of storyline was that?
Look. To be a good big brother, you must also lose. So we're both sad at the same time in the house. You know? We're all together. It's fine. I think the curse is going to continue. I think it's also more entertaining that every single year it's a new curse, right? Because it means that whoever is the defending champion, they have that additional pressure, right? It's not just, am I defending my title? It's not just, I want to win the money again. I don't want to just get another trophy in the back cabinet, right? I want to break history. I want to be the first person to do what's not been done in the entire scene. And that has a mental toll on you, right? It doesn't make it any easier to not make mistakes when you're thinking about, hey guys, I'm about to leave a legacy if I win this game.
These topics are going to get us cancelled one day by the e-disky peeps.
I think let's just stop the chats right there. Anyway, that's all for our e-disky discussions. When we come back for Talking VS, maskhulume in Rocket League, perfect.
See you next week, and stay well, VS Gaming fam. Don't forget to check us out on socials at VS Gaming World.
But seriously though, how do I enter?
Telkom. Possible begins here.